Welcome to episode 157 of Morning Kickoff. Good morning and welcome to Super Bowl weekend. It is a Thursday episode today. This is a weekly show where we cover all news football. I am your host, Matt Whit, and today we are live from Minneapolis, Minnesota on youtube.com/Matt Whit. You can come check us out every Monday and Thursday on the Morning Kickoff YouTube channel around 9 o'clock Central, or listen to all the pre-recorded podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. Today we have a fun episode. Super Bowl weekend is finally here. And, you know, my Vikings might have missed the playoffs, but this has been such an entertaining season of football, and I am all in for it. I loved all the upsets we've had, just the up and down emotions we've had all season long. It has been a roller coaster of emotions, and now, so far, this offseason has been great for Vikings fans as well. And just a great, hopefully we can have a very great finish to just an excellent season. Today is February 10th, 2022, and today we're going to discuss our preview and predictions for the Sunday matchup, which would be Bengals and Rams for Super Bowl 56. We're also going to be taking a look at the Minnesota Vikings' future position at the defensive coordinator. We've talked about it a little already, but now we're more into what's going on with the Minnesota Vikings coaching staff more than we were this last Monday. So we're going to talk about all that on today's episode of Morning Kickoff. I hope you all enjoy. Do you enjoy listening to this podcast? If you don't, that's totally fine. But if you do and would like to help out, there will be a link in the description that will bring you to my merch store. At this store, we sell t-shirts, sweatshirts, and mugs, and all of the profit earned will go towards the production of this podcast. Thank you all, and enjoy the show. Super Bowl 56 is finally here. It is Thursday, February 10th, and in a few days, we're going to have Super Bowl 56. Hopefully a great end to just an excellent season. And this Super Bowl matchup looks good. It is the LA Rams versus the Cincinnati Bengals. It will be played at SoFi Stadium in LA, so Rams might have a little home field advantage there. Although it might be in their home field, I really think there's going to be more Bengals fans there than there will be Rams fans. But at the end of the day, it's the Super Bowl, so there'll be all types of jerseys. We'll probably see a couple Justin Jefferson jerseys there in the mix. This is a 5:30 Central Time game on NBC, and the Rams are 4.5-point favorites. That's 4.5 points. That's a pretty big spread for a Super Bowl. Typically Super Bowls, it's 3 points or less. It's great to see that there's a bigger spread here, and we'll get more into why, because I've talked about the Bengals a lot so far. I've mentioned many times on the show that the Bengals are an underrated team. I believe, and this is the first time I'm ever going to say this in history, the Bengals are a tad bit overrated right now. We're going to get more into this in a little bit. We'll get more into it. I love the Bengals. I've talked about them a lot. Very young team and going to be a great team for time to come. And it is going to be so fun to watch that AFC North going forward. But in this game, this is the first time in NFL history that two 4 seeds will be playing each other in the Super Bowl. I mean, to think about that, it's been 56 years now. And this is the first time that both teams, it's not coming from a 1, 2, or 3 seed. It's 2 4-seed teams playing each other in the Super Bowl. That's interesting. That's gonna be fun to watch. But you're taking a look at the Wednesday injury report for both teams. Now, there isn't a whole lot of injuries here. However, you look at the injuries right now, and it's looking like both tight ends are not going to be playing in this matchup, and that's huge because like I've said, these are two high-power passing offenses. They need their tight ends to step up. First, starting with the Bengals, CJ Uzomah has been huge for their offense this year. Now, obviously, it's revolved around how Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow have connected this season, and then obviously Joe Mixon from the backfield. But outside of that, he's really stepped up for them, and he has not practiced yet this season after going down a couple weeks ago in the AFC Championship game. Went down, they saw Drew Sample step up, and although he's coming in time and time this season, has really not been able to do what Uzomah has done for their offense so far this season. So while he didn't practice yet this week, it's still looking bright that he might play this upcoming matchup. If not, Drew Sample has done an okay job. And at the end of the day, it's the connection between Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase with that offense. But they need all the help they can get, because you look at these two offenses right now, and realistically, you have two high-powered passing offenses going head-to-head in the Super Bowl. I am telling you guys, this is the future for the NFL. This is the way the league is going, okay? I don't want to ruin, I know Bill Belichick is a great coach, but the whole idea of just being a defense-only team and just being able to run the ball, it only can get you so far. Because defense, see, here's the saying, offense wins games, defense wins championships. You know, I can't completely debunk that theory, but you look at this game right now, it's two high-powered offenses going head-to-head to the point where you really don't have to load up on defense. You can put so much more money into your offense. Like we see the Mahomes and the Patrick Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs doing? I mean, they completely debunked that theory. As yes, they might have Frank Clark and Tyrann Mathieu on defense, but as a whole, they've dismissed a lot of positions, and hence why they probably aren't going to be competing in the next few seasons. On top of that, well, when I say competing, they're going to be competing in the AFC. You look at their whole division, and it's looking a little more rough, especially when you look at those AFC quarterbacks, those young AFC quarterbacks like Joe Burrow right now. Is looking tougher for Patrick Mahomes as that contract continues to hit. But going back onto the injuries, so Ozema might not play in this upcoming matchup. Also, on the Rams sideline, we might not see Tyler Higbee play in this game. So two high-powered offenses need all the help they can get, and Higbee's another player they should rush back, because obviously without Robert Woods on their team, another big loss on the defensive side of the ball. Jordan Fuller, huge loss on the defensive side of the ball for the Rams, and that's something we forget about. The Rams defense and the Bengals secondary, they're just not great. I mean, the Rams might have Jalen Ramsey, but outside of that, it does not look hot for their defense without Jordan Fuller right now, who is one of the most underrated safeties. That's a big loss for them. And then you look also on the Bengals sideline. I mean, two high-powered offenses going head-to-head against terrible secondaries. I mean, it's not looking hot for either side. And you look at this as a whole. What is the key factors in this game? Look at the big matchups. Jamar Chase, rookie, going up against Jalen Ramsey, arguably the best corner in the game. That is a key matchup right there. You have to watch how they're gonna be able to perform, because all in all, Jalen Ramsey might be one of the best corners in the game. But has he played a player like Jamar Chase? I mean, Jamar Chase is unpredictable. No one has been able to figure him out this entire season. Now he's going up against Jalen Ramsey, so it's going to be a big question right there. And in all honesty, I think Joe Burrow has to just continue to use his supporting cast, because, yes, their offense is revolved around Chase, and he's had a tremendous, outstanding rookie season, and I believe he was a second-team All-Pro and Pro Bowler on top of that, so just an excellent rookie receiver coming out of LSU. But you look at their whole team as a whole. I mean, you have T. Higgins they have to work with. Higgins has dropped a couple passes so far. Ozema might not play. That's a big loss for them. I mean, Joe Burrow is just not in a good situation right now. And then on top of that, you look at the other key matchups. What about Aaron Donald? I mean, are we going to forget that the Bengals are one of the worst offensive lines in the entire league? Somehow makes it to a Super Bowl with a bad offensive line. Very rare to see that happen, by the way. But Aaron Donald, they can line him up wherever he wants. Line him up at 3-tech, put him at defensive end. I mean, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, their only good player in their O-line right now, from what I've seen, is Jonah Williams. Outside of Williams, they've suffered with some injuries, and I get a lot of their players are second-team offensive linemen, but you have to look at what they have right now, and they're going up against the Rams defense, and this is going to show because, like I said previously, offense wins you games, defense wins you championships, although that's the saying. In this game, that might just prove to be true, because the Bengals got to the Super Bowl. Hats off to them. Congratulations. But they still have a lot of holes. I mean, we can't just dismiss the fact that their O-line is going up against Aaron Donald, going up against Leonard Floyd, going up against, how about Von Miller now? Yes, Von Miller, the last player to win Super Bowl MVP as a defensive player back in Super Bowl 50 with the Broncos, I believe it was. But on top of that, Von Miller is now going up against Isaiah Prince. I mean, they lost Riley Reef on their offensive line at right tackle. This Prince guy has not stepped in very well. How about their secondary as a whole? How about the fact that Eli Apple somehow is still a starter in the NFL and does not deserve that at all after what he did to the Giants and the Saints organizations back to back? How about the Chidobe Awuzie guy who was with the Cowboys previously? I mean, they're just signing guys off the streets at this point. Now they're going up against Cooper Kupp, triple crowned king Cooper Kupp. So it's going to be a problem for this Bengals secondary. And if the Rams want to win this game, they have one goal. Joe Burrow's got to get rid of the ball in 3 seconds, because that defense is going to be all over his face all game long. It's going to be a repeat of last year's Super Bowl, where Mahomes might have had a lot of playmakers on offense. I mean, obviously, we know what Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce are made of, but they might have a lot of targets to be able to go to on offense. But as a whole, isn't it going to be running all around the field? And when you look at this as a whole, it does not look good for Joe Burrow, which is why I believe this is the first time in NFL history that I'm going to be saying this, that Rams look a little overrated. Gonna be completely honest. I'm a huge Joe Burrow fan. I'm gonna be cheering for them. I always root for the underdog in the Super Bowl. Always. I always go underdog. But at the end of the day, I'm sorry. I'm gonna be the pessimist and say here that I really don't think Joe Burrow is gonna be able to win a ring this year. In the future, I believe he will. They really have to beef up that offensive line. Zach Taylor is one heck of a head coach. I mean, let's not forget the fact that Zach Taylor is just a mastermind. Give a lot of credit to him. Same goes for Sean McVay. These are two great head coaches who I believe Zach Taylor was actually coached with Sean McVay in the past, if I have that right. Two great head coaches. And it just kind of, this Super Bowl right here shows where the league is heading. High-powered passing offenses led by offensive-minded head coaches, young offensive-minded head coaches. And I'm so happy to say that my Vikings are finally doing the same, where they go for a young offensive-minded head coach who's actually coaching in this game. Kevin O'Connell, their offensive coordinator, will be the Vikings head coach, expected to be the Vikings head coach in 2022. And it's so good to see that we're following suit in this current, where the league is going right now. High-powered passing offenses is exactly what works for a team. It's why the Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs won a Super Bowl with a not so great defense in the past, and this is what we're going to continue to see with teams going forward. And what we've seen the last few years, and is really this is here to stay. Okay, this high-powered passing offense is led by young offensive-minded head coaches. Like, this is here to stay. This is not going anywhere. You get the franchise quarterback, you build around him, and you have a dynasty. And then you look outside of this. I mean, the halftime show, you guys. I mean, okay. Rap music isn't for everybody. The halftime show, we do have Dr. Dre, Kendrick Lamar, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, and Mary J. Blige. So I know every millennial's going crazy right now because these are early 2000s, 1990s kind of rappers. And although rap music isn't for everybody, I do believe this halftime show will be enjoyable for everybody. I really don't see a case where this could be a bad halftime show as a whole of it, when you look at it, because these are big name guys. I mean, Dr. Dre, Kendrick Lamar, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Mary J. Blige. I mean, everyone watching this should know a few of their songs, and it'll be enjoying. It'll be enjoying to watch this halftime show, and I believe it's going to be one of the best halftime shows of all time. I honestly believe that this halftime show is going to be fun to watch. Now, as we do in all of our episodes, final prediction, or our bold prediction of the week. So we talked about a little bit on what to watch for in this game, and realistically, any given Sunday, anything can happen. If I were to make a pie chart of who's going to win this game, I would give over 60% of that to the Rams. Honestly, over 70% of the chance that the Rams win this game. But as we've seen from the past, I mean, any given Sunday, anything can happen. This has been a year of upsets, up and down all season long, and to the point where Joe Burrow might win a ring this year. I mean, it's been a year of upsets, and we might see it happen. If Joe Burrow does have a ring and come back, we're going to hear a lot of the people coming in and trying to ruin sports for us. Oh, it's rigged. Oh, it's all scripted. Stop trying to ruin sports, okay? I get it. I get it. It's a business. I understand. But stop trying to ruin sports. This is my favorite thing in the world, people trying to ruin it. But for the bold prediction of the week, this is a real bold prediction. A defensive player will win Super Bowl MVP. I honestly believe this game is going to come down to defense, because there is no question at all that these are two amazing offenses, and both might revolve around the pass game, but can run the ball well. Joe Mixon has had a career year this year. I mean, that Bengals offense as a whole, they're just all young. Their entire offense looks like they're 25 or younger. They're just a bunch of kids my age. But you look at Aaron Donald and the Rams. I mean, you look at that defense. Like, one of these players are going to step up huge. And I believe the Rams will actually have 2 defensive touchdowns in this game. I seriously believe it's going to come down to that. Joe Burrow plays with insane confidence. I mean, give credit to him for a rookie to come in the playoffs and be able to take out Mahomes, to be able to take out the 1 seed Tennessee Titans. Like, he plays with insane confidence. But he's going up against Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's going to be feasting all game. I'm just going to be completely honest. Aaron Donald still has a bad taste in his mouth from the last Super Bowl where he played, where he lost by 6 points to the Patriots, I believe it was, that a few years back. Aaron Donald still has a bad taste in his mouth. He's here for revenge. He's here to eat Joe Burrow, and I just believe it's going to happen. Even if he goes up against Jonah Williams, I seriously believe he's going to have a great day. And then you look at everybody outside of him. I mean, Donald might get a lot of the credit, but look at Leonard Floyd. He might get it. I mean, Jalen Ramsey, Von Miller, they're just loaded with first, second team All-Pros on their defense and can definitely destroy Joe Burrow and that young offense. But really, like I said, any given Sunday, for the final prediction, y'all predicted it. I mean, obviously, I'm gonna have to go Rams. I'm gonna have to go with Rams to get a 4-point win here. Vegas would be happy with a 4-point win here. Final prediction, Rams will win this game 27-22 over the Cincinnati Bengals. Unfortunately, I want to cheer for the Bengals, want them to get their first Super Bowl ever. Just don't think it's going to happen. It's completely in the Rams' favor, and they have home field advantage. I mean, I'll give it all to the Rams. Bengals, credit to the Bengals. They've had a great year, an excellent season. But I'm going to go Rams in this game, 27-22, and although I'll be going for the Bengals, it'll be so good to see Matthew Stafford be able to win a championship because, us fans of the entire NFC North, like we saw what Matthew Stafford went through. Everybody saw what Matthew Stafford went through in Detroit, and now he's going to play in an absolute superstar of a team. And when I say superstar, I mean they have so many future Hall of Famers, all pros in that defense and offense. Just a high-powered team right there. And let's take a look at Eric Weddle too. I forgot about him. They might have lost Jordan Fuller, but they do have Eric Whittle stepping in as well. So just a great team for the Rams. And this is a boomer bust year for the Rams, going all in. They have an excellent coaching tree. I mean, Sean McVay, they have Raheem Mostert. They obviously are Raheem Morris, I meant to say. Raheem Mostert's the running back for the 49ers. And then outside of that, Kevin O'Connell. Like, they're just an absolute monster of a team. And not only just on the field, but off the field in the coaching staff as well. So, well-coached team. They might not, Joe Burrow might be the better quarterback, but if you look at the other factors in this game, who's the better coach team? It's the Rams. Who has the better defense? It's the Rams. Who has the better playmakers? Now, for that, you can actually argue Bengals. It's a toss-up in the air, but if you look at offensive line on top of that, if you factor in the time that Matthew Stafford would have under center to make plays to his playmakers, I would lean the Rams on that as well. So, really, realistically, if it was me, the Bengals only have the edge in Joe Burrow, and it's going to come down to how he plays. He plays with insane confidence, like I said, especially for a rookie. Second-year player. I don't know why I said rookie. A second-year player, especially for a second-year player, for him to play with that confidence. I mean, hats off to Joe Burrow for a great season that he's had, and will be coming back next year to compete in the AFC for another championship. But all in all, Rams 27, Bengals 22. I'm so excited for the Super Bowl. I'm so excited, especially just because it's like the Chiefs won't be in it. I mean, you won't see the Packers in it. Like it looks so fun. It is so fun. I love Bengals. I love Joe Burrow. I want to see him win a championship. Do I think it's going to happen? No. Am I fine with it not happening? Absolutely, because that means Matthew Stafford's coming back. Stafford has just been locked in Detroit. I mean, pinned down in Detroit for years and years and years. Yes, he had Calvin Johnson. Yes, he might have made a couple playoff appearances, but he never won a playoff game. And I mean, as you can see in the back, it's been 30 years since the Lions won a playoff game. And I'm sure everybody in Detroit feels the same, where they just want to see Matthew Stafford have a good end to his career. And there's no better place to play than Rams right now. They are a win now team. And you look at the Rams going forward, if Sean McVay were not have made a Super Bowl this year, he might not even be locked down as a head coach for the next few years because they are screwed. They are the definition of a boom or bust team. This last year, I was talking about the Minnesota Vikings saying this is a boom or bust year. Like, if the Vikings don't make a Super Bowl this last season, I mean, you have to completely clean house. And that's what we see the Vikings doing right now, where they obviously got rid of Mike Zimmer, got rid of Rick Spielman, started with that. And now we're seeing a lot of other departures from our team, like we did with Ryan Fikens, special teams coordinator, Clint Kubiak, offensive coordinator, DeFilippo, the quarterbacks coach, Janoko, the quarterbacks coach. We see a lot of people depart from this team, and now going through a full new phase, a new era for this era of Vikings football. And this is really what we see the Rams doing right now. And this was a boom or bust year. They loaded up on teams, basically throwing away their future. So if the Rams don't win a Super Bowl this year or the next year, I mean, they're not winning a Super Bowl for the next decade. And they're going to be the laughingstock of the NFC West. That's an NFC West that's loaded with talent right now. That's an NFC West that has Kyler Murray, maybe the best quarterback under the age of 25 in the NFC right now. I was watching a list of, it was talking about Tom Brady retiring. It was talking about, obviously, Drew Brees going, and then Aaron Rodgers likely going to the AFC as well. And it was talking about the league being in good hands, and it showed all the quarterbacks. It was like Joe Burrow, it was Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you had a lot of young quarterbacks in the mix, and obviously Justin Herbert, there's Lamar Jackson. There's a lot of names. What do all those quarterbacks have in common? They are all in the AFC. I mean, Vikings fans, I am so happy I'm in the NFC right now, because the AFC has been controlled by the Patriots for a long time now. And now you look at them, I mean, their whole entire conference has so many talented young quarterbacks. You look at the NFC outside of Kyler Murray, I mean, what other name can you throw into the hat right now? Dak Prescott? Not really. I mean, he's not that young anymore. He's on a second contract. I mean, technically he is young, but he doesn't look like he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. And if he is, it's likely going to be because he's for the Cowboys and will get a lot of recognition because of that. But yeah, you look at all the young quarterbacks in the NFC, and it's like outside of Kyler Murray, there's not a whole lot of talent. Hopefully, the Vikings can find the next quarterback. Now, would it be in this year's draft? Probably not, because you look at it right now, and I mean, they've talked about how they're likely going to stick with Kirk Cousins at least for one more year, or maybe restructure him and hopefully go for a trade after this season. Whatever they do, I'm fine with it, because at the end of the day, if the Vikings don't draft a quarterback in this upcoming draft, I am totally fine with that. If the Vikings wait till the second round to draft a quarterback, again, I'm fine with that, because you look at the quarterback class as a whole. I mean, it's pretty much of a disappointment. I would love to see Matt Corral here. I would love that so much. Matt Corral, quarterback out of Ole Miss. I would love to see him on our team, but he's not worth a 12th overall pick. He just isn't, with how much of a risk it is and how many needs we have on our defense, especially where we can find a great corner, a great outside linebacker, and fill those needs, hopefully in free agency, but if not, in the first round of the draft. And that's why I'd be fine with the Vikings not drafting a quarterback in the first round and waiting another year. Again, if you've been tuning into the show, you know I'm all in for trading Kirk Cousins, especially with how the quarterback market is right now. Like, there are a lot of teams that would give up more than just a first round draft pick for Kirk Cousins, because there is not a quarterback you can find like him hitting free agency. There's not a quarterback you can find like him in the draft right now. And I mean, in the rookie season, in their first year in the draft is what I'm saying. But you look at it and it's just, Vikings, if you could get a first round and maybe throw in a third round pick, because that's very possible. On top of that, I mean, please go for it, go for it, go for it. Look what's best for your team. Please do that. Please do that. Another thing a lot of people are talking about is the defensive coordinator for the Vikings. Because here's the thing, and a lot of people disagree with me here. And here's the thing, Vikings are going for new coaching staffs all around the board right now. I mean, we already saw it with obviously Mike Zimmer, Rick Spielman. We saw Janoko leave. We saw Clint Kubiak leave. I mean, thank you. And then we saw what's another name? Oh, there's another, Ryan Fiken, special teams coordinator. I mean, I was a big fan of him. But we see all these people leaving to the point where we're going for a full-on change in the front office. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing, you guys. Typically, when you see organizations get a new GM, when you see organizations get a new head coach, they have to bring in whoever they know they can work with. This is how you build dynasties, you guys. This is how it goes. I've heard scenarios, I've heard times where new GMs come in and they go to the extent of firing the janitor. Okay? Because what that's doing is you're saying, I'm bringing in who I want. I'm bringing in who I like. I'm bringing in who I know I can work with, because it's so important for everybody to be on the same page here. And this is where it comes down to the spot where, if you've been tuning into the show, if you know, I am a huge fan of Andre Patterson. I respect the guy more than anything. I love the guy to death, and I want him to have the best success wherever he goes, whatever he does in the future, whether that's with the Vikings or another team. I love the guy, and he might be my favorite coach in Vikings history. Not named head coach. My favorite coach in Vikings history. I love the guy so much. But here's the thing. It might be time to move on. I respect him so much. I love him so much. And people are like, why would you not want him to be here? It's not that I don't want him to be here. It's that I want the Vikings to go all... I'm fine with him going, is what I'm saying here, because you look at the past two seasons with Andre Patterson as their defensive coordinator. These last two seasons have maybe been the worst two defensive seasons for the Minnesota Vikings I have ever seen. Now, I know you don't give all the I'm not giving all the credit to Andre Patterson, or all the blame to Andre Patterson here. And I respect the guy so much, because you look at what he's done for this organization. He's been with our organization for 10 years now, all 8 years under the Mike Zimmer era, 2 of those being a co-defensive coordinator and the other 6 of those being a defensive line coach. Before that, he spent 1998 and 1999 with the Vikings. Yes, 99 and 98 with the Vikings. They're 2 great seasons we had. The 1998 Vikings, by the way, that season, we were the best team. We are the best team in NFL history to not win a Super Bowl. That 98 season was loaded with Hall of Famers, and yet we did not win a Super Bowl. I cannot believe that. But you take a look at it, he's been the best Vikings defensive line coach in history, and he has been one of the best defensive line coach in the NFL throughout a majority of his career. I mean, you look at some of the talent that he has developed into this organization. John Randall, Chris Dolman, Both Hall of Famers, part of the 1998 defensive line. R.I.P. Chris Dolman, by the way. Outside of that, he came into this organization under the Zimmer era, turned Everson Griffin into a superstar, made him a 4-team All-Pro, turned Linval Joseph, brought him in free agency. He made back-to-back Pro Bowls. What about the fact that he drafted, what was it, Danielle Hunter in the 3rd round and brought him to a couple Pro Bowls and turned Danielle Hunter into a top 7 pass rusher? Or the fact that we bring in a bunch of defensive linemen taken in day 3 of the draft and somehow make them work? Shamar Stephen is a perfect example. Shamar Stephen may have never been a Pro Bowler or All-Pro, or may have never been a superstar or a very good starter. But what he was a 7th-round draft pick who was able to hold his own as a starter. That is why I love Andre Patterson. And why when I'm talking about looking for a new defensive coordinator, I'm not saying Andre Patterson's bad at his job. I'm saying this is the time where we look to the future. This is the time where we find new people who can be on our coaching staff, and this can be the dawn of a new era for Vikings organization. Respect him so much. I have so much respect for him. And our 2020, let's take a look at the 2 years as Andre Patterson as our defensive coordinator. Last year, he was a co-defensive coordinator alongside alongside Adam Zimmer, and also, I guess, Mike Zimmer as well, because Mike Zimmer was technically the leader of our defense. But you look at it last year, we were the 30th ranked defense in football. 3-0 with Andre Patterson as our defensive coordinator here. And you look at it, it's not all due to injuries. The 2020 season before that, the Vikings were the 29th ranked defense. 29th and 30th back-to-back. Now the 29th, you can blame a majority of that on injuries. Michael Pierce opting out of the season, Danielle Hunter not playing a single snap, Anthony Barr only playing 2 games, Eric Hendricks missing 5 games. There are a lot of reasons on why the Vikings were a terrible defense in the 2020 season. We brought in so many people in the 2021 offseason to plug in as starters, and yet it did not work. This is when we look to the future. I respect Andre Patterson so much, and if he wants to stay on this organization as a defensive line coach, yes, please keep him. Is he willing to take a demotion? Is he willing to be demoted? I don't know. I mean, it's Andre Patterson. He's what, 60-some years old? Does he really want to go through a rebuild right now? I mean, technically the Vikings are not in a full-on rebuild because we can compete in our division next year. Technically the Vikings are not in a full-on rebuild here, but does he want to stick with an organization that will likely not compete in the next few years? And when I say not compete, I mean not making it out the NFC in a couple of years in the future. But this is why the Vikings are looking for new defensive coordinators right now. And while Andre Patterson, I love the guy, it is time. And so far, the Vikings have completed a couple of interviews, one being with Anthony Weaver. Anthony Weaver was the Ravens run game coordinator and defensive line coordinator this last season, and was also interviewed with the Broncos defensive coordinator job and the Ravens defensive coordinator job, so his current organization. Anthony Weaver definitely qualified to be a defensive coordinator somewhere in the NFL. And you'll notice one team that he interviewed there was with the Broncos. Broncos are a team who are kind of in a rebuild phase, but also can make a Super Bowl in the rebuilding year. It's a super interesting organization right now. And I made a prediction like 4 months ago on this podcast. I said, in the 2021 season, both Kirk Cousins and Mike Zimmer will be with the Broncos organization. I made this prediction months ago, and I might go back and pull that out to prove it to you guys. I made that prediction months ago, and now it's looking more possible than it's ever been. Kirk Cousins, I mean, trade rumors are still there. Now, yes, it's a little bit dampered down recently, but trade rumors are still there. And then also, Broncos are now looking for a new defensive coordinator as they did fire Vic Fangio. So they're looking for someone to take control of the defense, and who better than it being Mike Zimmer? Mike Zimmer's perfectly fit to be a defensive coordinator and can definitely be a threat on that Broncos defense right now. And that's a young defense that could really use a mastermind like Mike Zimmer to bring them to the next level. But yeah, Anthony Weaver is perfectly fit for the position to be the Vikings' next defensive coordinator. They've also completed an interview with ex-defensive coordinator for the for the Bears, Sean Desai. Don't really know much about him. I don't have strong opinions on him. I really don't know much about him. But the Vikings are looking for a new defensive coordinator in that realm, and then have also requested to interview Lions defensive back coach Aubrey Pleasant. Yeah, since when have the Lions had a good defense? I mean, why? You know what? Sure, why not? Why not? Just interview anybody for the role. Whoever has the best ideas for this defense. I mean, and obviously fit for the position, sure. But since when have the Lions had a good defense? And we also did interview Patrick Graham to be our head coach recently, and ended up being a defensive coordinator with the Raiders, and that was unfortunate because I did want to see him be our defensive coordinator. Another name, Vic Fangio, that I just mentioned here. I mean, I've talked about him a little bit, where Vikings could bring in Fangio as their defensive coordinator. He has a long track record of that in the past, so it could definitely be our defensive coordinator this last season. He was also the defensive coordinator with the Bears a few years ago, so there's another thing right there. He could definitely look into that Bears defense, already knows how they all work, and could definitely help out the Vikings in that field. So, because we play them twice a year. But you take a look at the Vikings, realistically, Andre Patterson, does he want to stick with the organization if he's not going to be at least a co-defensive coordinator? I really don't think he wants to. I don't think he wants to, because he was brought into this organization in 2014. Now, yes, he had 2 years prior with the Vikings way back in the 90s, but he was brought into this organization under Mike Zimmer. He played under Mike Zimmer for 8 years. Does he want to be the only guy on this coaching staff to stick with the team? Because like I've said multiple times, when you bring in a new GM, you bring in a new head coach, they have to bring in their coaching tree, meaning they have to bring in whoever they have worked with in the past, whoever they know is fit for the position, and who they know they can work with. Why keep a guy on the coaching staff? Now, yes, Andre Patterson is not just a guy on the coaching staff. All respect to him. He's not just a guy on the coaching staff. But I would be fine with the Vikings moving on and going for someone new. And I would love for him to stay with this organization as a defensive line coach, but unfortunately not as a defensive coordinator. And that's what I've talked about quite a bit on this podcast so far. Kyle F says, I think you're going to be disappointed on the Kirk Cousins front. O'Connell will want him. Yeah, it's really hard right now. I mean, O'Connell's not really focused on this. He's obviously focused on this Sunday's matchup against the Bengals, which is going to be so fun to watch. That Rams offense is so entertaining. And I am so excited for Kevin O'Connell to come in this organization. Now, yes, I'll say it again. That's a Sean McVay-led offense. That is not Kevin O'Connell. You can only give him about, 9% of the credit for that offense. It's really led by Sean McVay and how he can lead an offense and how he can control. But what's great about it is Kevin O'Connell has worked under Sean McVay, meaning maybe they have some kind of similarities there. Maybe Kevin O'Connell has learned from Sean McVay and can definitely run a similar offense to Sean McVay. And obviously, like we said already in the show, I mean, Justin Jefferson being excited about O'Connell is already a massive leap into success, because although Justin Jefferson didn't verbally say he wasn't happy with being with our organization, I believe it was almost blatantly obvious that he didn't enjoy playing here. Why? Because he doesn't enjoy playing for a team that loses because they don't target him. He doesn't enjoy playing for a team that doesn't respect him, and that's why they lose. It's not that he wants to be a diva and complain about not getting targets. It's that he wants to win. And that's why I respect Justin Jefferson and what he said, and how he didn't completely verbally, obviously, say that he was not happy here, because he's on his rookie contract. I don't believe although he's a very talented player and maybe the best Vikings wide receiver in a long time, can't really do that on his rookie contract. I mean, that's kind of an unwritten rule, is you don't want to bash your organization quite yet. You want to wait at least until like year 4, pretty much, to say something, because then you're looking at a potential trade or looking to a future team, because there's no way absolutely not would the Vikings trade Justin Jefferson on his rookie contract. That is idiotic, and that would be stupid. I don't care how much he doesn't like playing here. You do not trade Justin Jefferson on his rookie contract. But taking a look at that though, Kevin O'Connell, you do say that he wants him. And I have heard around the league where he's looking to actually restructure his contract. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'm really not convinced, because here's the thing. Kevin O'Connell might want Kirk Cousins to be on a roster for at least 2022. But you look at it as a whole. I mean, the quarterback market is red hot right now. There is no good quarterbacks in free agency. No quarterbacks who can step into the starting role and be a great quarterback to start the 2022 season. That completely, massively ups Kirk Cousins' trade value. And then you look at the draft. Well, are any quarterbacks ready to be starters day one? I mean, Kenny Pickett looks good. Matt Corral looks great. I mean, Malik Willis. There's a lot of names of quarterbacks that could definitely be starters day one, but they're not going to be leading their team to any Super Bowls. They're not going to be leading their team to division titles. I mean, Kirk Cousins, put in the right situation, can do that for your team. Because obviously Kirk Cousins has been a 500 quarterback and has the same amount of wins, losses, and ties as an exactly 500 quarterback. Needs to play under the right situation. He has shown his talent. He's shown what he's capable of, and I respect him. He's still 3 years old, which quarterbacks play into their 40s now, so he might have another 10 years left in him. Who knows? Especially with how healthy he stays. Another thing that massively increases his trade value is his health, because when it comes to quarterbacks, health is everything, which is why Carson Wentz being a first and third blows my mind. The fact that the Colts gave up a first and third round pick for maybe the most injury prone quarterback of our generation. Now, this guy, yes, it was technically a second rounder, but it was a conventional third rounder or something like that, first rounder, because he was if you played a majority of the season. So I get that it wasn't guaranteed a first round draft pick, but at the end of the day, they ended up giving a first and a third for Carson Wentz. I mean, you look at other trades. How about the fact that the Vikings gave up a first for Sam Bradford, who was another injury prone quarterback? We gave up a first rounder for Sam Bradford. Don't forget that. There's been a lot of quarterbacks in history who have been worth first round draft picks, and we're just not worth first round draft picks. And Kirk Cousins is worth a first round draft pick, meaning we can maybe get 2 first rounders for him, because that is how red hot of a market it is right now. You look at free agency. You can plug in Marcus Mariota as a starter. I mean, you can go back to going back to Fitzmagic. I mean, there's a couple names out there that you can plug in as starters. But you want to plug in someone who's going to bring your team to a Super Bowl. You want to look at the teams who are a Super Bowl away from competing, who can look to trading for Kirk Cousins. And that's huge. That is huge. You also have Aaron Rodgers in the market, possibly in the market, most likely. As of right now, I believe it's more than 50% chance that he will be traded. I'd give it a 50% chance. I don't want to get my hopes up. I'd give it a 50% chance that Aaron Rodgers is out of our division. And then you look outside of that. I mean, Russell Wilson, maybe. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's another possibility. There's a lot of quarterbacks who could be on the market that we really don't know yet. Kirk Cousins is just one of them. And this is a market where you want to trade quarterbacks. This is a market where you need to trade quarterbacks. Kevin O'Connell might want him, but the moment Kevin O'Connell comes into this organization, gets a calls up from the Denver Broncos or Cleveland Browns, and they say, I see you have Kirk Cousins, $45 million of guaranteed in 2022. Do you really want to pay that? And Kevin O'Connell's probably like, you know what? That's a good idea. Maybe I don't want to pay that. Maybe I don't want to extend him again and restructure his contract again, because that has never worked for our organization. I love Kirk Cousins. I hate the idea of extending him again. Well, actually, one more year if he wants to take a pay cut. Let's be honest. Kirk Cousins is not taking a realistic pay cut. We always talk about it, a pay cut. A pay cut is just a restructure of a contract that screws yourself over in the future. Can we stop using the term pay cut? Because 9 times out of 10, it is not a pay cut. 9 times out of 10, it is not a pay cut. People talked about Adam Thielen taking a pay cut. Adam Thielen never took a pay cut. He was taking a restructured contract, which means he might not make as much money this season, but it doesn't matter to him because he has guaranteed money the season after. I mean, it's not a pay cut at the end of the day, because you're still paying the player money. They might take a little restructure. I've talked about restructures a lot, and restructures have worked for teams. They have. Look at the Rams right now. They just restructured a bunch of contracts, completely screwed themselves over in the future. Why? Because they're a win-now team. I mean, they're a Super Bowl or bust team right now, and that's the definition of a Super Bowl or bust team. And you look at the Vikings, it's just we're not in the same situation as the Rams. We just completely are not in the same situation as the Rams. We might have a lot of talent, but we are not the Rams. I believe that's almost obvious right now. We still don't even know if our coach is going to be a realistic Super Bowl contending coach. We really have no clue. But what I do know is it's looking very promising right now. It's looking very promising. I love that. I love that. LGKDOC says just pushing a problem back for it to burn you later. Allah Saints. 100%. Thank you. Thank you. Because this is something nobody talks about. Look at the numbers. See, me, I like numbers. I'm a business guy. I like looking at the numbers and looking at what's best for your team, which is why I'm so happy we brought in Kwesi, because he understands the value of money. He understands the value of money, him being a Wall Street trader. Look at the situation. Pay cuts are not usually pay cuts. Restructures barely are worth it. You look at a restructured contract. Let me really tell you guys, for those of you who don't understand what a restructuring contract means, when you're restructuring a contract, you're saying their contract is already bad and you're just going to make it worse. You're saying their contract is, $45 million for Kirk Cousins next year. That doesn't look good. Oh, I have an idea. Let's actually put him on a 2-year contract instead, where he's just making 15 million this year, and the next year let's 60 million. Like they just completely screw themselves over the next year. That is what restructuring a contract is. They shouldn't even call it restructuring a contract at this point. What they should call it is kicking the can down the middle, or kicking the can down a couple years to screw yourself over in the future. That is what a restructured contract does. And yes, I understand. There's been many situations where it has worked for teams. There's been many situations where it makes sense. The Rams right now in the Super Bowl, perfect example of when a restructuring contracts make sense. But you look at it for the Vikings, it does not make sense for us. Now, here's the thing. If the Vikings are going to stick with Kirk Cousins, which I've said many times, I do want them to trade him. If they can get the right trade, I want them to trade him. If they keep Kirk Cousins for 1 more year, 2 more years, or 1 more year and then trade him after this year, still, I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. If we do bring Kirk Cousins on another contract and they put him on a 2-year contract, can we please not screw ourselves over in 2023? Can we please just accept the fact that he's worth a ridiculous amount of money and decide to pay half of that contract this upcoming season? If you put him on a 2-year contract, and let's say, what's a realistic situation? Let's say he's put on a 2-year contract, and Kirk Cousins, we know Kirk Cousins to the point where he's only going to sign a contract if it's all guaranteed money. Because that's the kind of guy Kirk Cousins is. He's not going to take the contracts that say contract bonuses, or the contracts that have the what's it called, the whatever the other word is. I can't, it's slipping my mind right now, but like the bonuses and the signing bonuses and that kind of stuff. He doesn't care about all that. What he wants is all guaranteed salary. That's all Kirk Cousins cares about. If you put him on a 2-year contract, let's say a realistic, would 70 million be realistic? Yeah, that's $35 million for 2 years of guaranteed salary. Still so much money. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then they're talking about a pay cut. Like, I mean, you're saving a tiny bit of money there, but realistically, you are screwing yourselves over. You are screwing yourselves over. And then LGK DOC says, also better to trade a player a year early than a year too late. 100%. Because right now, I've talked about it, this quarterback market is red hot. There are teams around the league who are desperate for a quarterback and are not in the situation to easily, incentives, thank you, who are easily just going to bring in a quarterback in free agency and compete. Like, this is not the situation we're in. We're not in the same Drew Brees and Tom Brady are hitting free agency like we were 2 years ago. This is a completely different situation where the upcoming draft, we don't have anyone in the upcoming draft who can simply just step in as a starter day one and somehow magically lead their team to a Super Bowl. Like, this kind of stuff is not realistic. And you look at it for the Minnesota Vikings right now. It is not realistic for a team to take a quarterback in free agency like Marcus Mariota, Ryan Tannehill, and somehow Ryan Fitzpatrick, and somehow make a Super Bowl run. This is just not going to happen. And that's why teams are going to be looking to trade for a quarterback, and who better than Kirk Cousins? Or I guess Aaron Rodgers is there too. Kirk Cousins. What does Kirk Cousins have? He's young. Well, 33 is technically old, but for a quarterback, that's okay. For a quarterback, 33 is okay. He's a very healthy quarterback. Like I've said, that is so crucial for a healthy quarterback. That's worth at least, when I say at least a first round draft pick, I'm saying the Vikings can get a first and a second for Kirk Cousins, because I'm dead serious. They can, 100%. And then obviously his talent. Like, he has so much leverage there to the point where he could go to an organization like Denver and somehow win their division. The division might be tough. They might have Justin Herbert in that division. They might have Derek Carr and Patrick Mahomes in that division. But at the end of the day, they can definitely compete with a quarterback like Kirk Cousins or a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. At that point, I'd be more happy if they traded for Aaron Rodgers. Get him the heck out of that division. Get him out of here. Put him to the AFC. I'm fine with that. But there's a lot of organizations that with Kirk Cousins can be contenders. And they can't just simply look to free agency. They just can't simply look to the draft. And this is why I've heard a lot of people bring up the idea of trading Adam Thielen as well. And I've said I'm fine with the Vikings trading away Adam Thielen. I mean, obviously he's an aging player. Now, he's shown no sign of decline. He's still the best player best wide receiver over the age of 30. He's shown no sign of decline. But the Vikings are simply not going to get much for Adam Thielen because of the fact that this free agent market is so good for wide receivers. You guys, this is like the best wide receiver free agent market I've seen maybe my entire life. We have Devontae Adams, Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin. I mean, the list goes on of big name, instant wide receiver ones that can go to organizations and be still one of the best in the league. I mean, Devontae Adams, I've said it. I hate the Packers, but I'm going to admit he is the best wide receiver in this league right now. He really is. Him going to play in the NFC. Imagine if he goes to play in the AFC West with the Raiders, and they also have Aaron Rodgers in that division. They also have Nathaniel Hackett being their head coach, and maybe even Mike Zimmer as their defensive coordinator. I'm all in for that. All in for that. It looks so fun. And then I believe, didn't they bring in Clint Kubiak? I believe it was the Broncos who brought in Clint Kubiak, if I have that right. But yeah, this is a perfect year. And like you said, better 1 year early than 1 year late. If there's one thing, no, there's so many things that make Bill Belichick a mastermind. One thing I love from Bill Belichick makes him so smart. He always finds the right time to trade players. He always trades players at the right time. And he's been looking for a trade for Stephon Gilmore and ended up just cutting him. Stephon Gilmore is a perfect example of a player who, when he's not going to play for Bill Belichick, now we didn't get to see him much because he was injured this last year. When we see how he's actually going to look with the Panthers, I seriously don't believe he's going to be great. Because we saw Tannehill play with, Gilmore play with the Titans before, I believe it was, and he didn't look all that great. Then he goes to play with a Bill Belichick defense, and he looks amazing. He's the best corner in all of football that year. I believe it was the 2019 season where he had the most interceptions, locked down an entire side of the field. I mean, Bill Belichick can take a team of just scrawny dudes, and somehow it's going to make the playoffs. Like, I'm telling you, that guy is a mastermind. And he is the definition of a player who trades players definition of a coach who trades players at the right time. And that is what we would do if we trade away Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is coming off of a career year. And I've said it multiple times. I'm like, Kirk Cousins is coming off of a career year, and that's all the more reason why you should trade him. And then people are like, oh, why would you trade him away if he had such a great season? Why would you do this if he had a great year? All the more reason why you should trade him away, because he's just coming off of a great season, and that massively increases his trade value. And then you look at the past quarterbacks that's been traded. I mean, Kirk Cousins is better than, I believe at this point, there's no question. As of right now, Kirk Cousins has more trade value than Carson Wentz did 1 year ago today. Kirk Cousins has more trade value than Sam Darnold did when we gave up a first rounder for Sam Darnold. Let's not forget that. That was a terrible trade for the Vikings, and that ended up biting us in the butt because Sam Darnold played, 5 games with us? I mean, he might have played a majority of that season, but that 2015 season wasn't great for the Vikings. I believe it was 2015. I might have my stats wrong on that, but I believe it was. It wasn't very memorable for the Vikings. Kyle Rudolph might have had a great year, but outside of that, it doesn't seem like anybody else did. But you look at our Vikings team, it is just the right time if trading Kirk is right now. And I've said it, if the Vikings, if Kevin O'Connell wants to keep Kirk Cousins, I'm still okay with that. I'm not going to hate any of the decisions that the Vikings make, unless if they extend Kirk Cousins and say, let's give him $10 million this year and $70 million next year. Unless if they make a decision like that, I have strong opinions, but when it comes to this situation, most of the decisions that they make sense. Restructuring contracts 9 times out of 10 is stupid. And I will say that time and time again. Restructuring contracts is not a smart decision for a majority of the time. It's just not smart. And it would not be smart for the Vikings to restructure Kirk and somehow go on Twitter and call it, oh, the Vikings, Kirk Cousins took a pay cut to stay with the team. Can we stop saying pay cut? It makes me mad because you got to look at the numbers. Vikings, don't get distracted. Don't get distracted here and think that pay cuts are smart, because it might sound like a good thing. It might sound smart hearing, oh, pay cut. Oh, he's taking a pay cut. This is a great thing, right? It might sound smart, but you got to look at the fine print. You got to look at the details. Pay cuts are usually not that great. And let's be honest, for the Vikings, when was the last time the Vikings player took a pay cut and it actually worked for our team? When was the last time that ever happened? Let's pull up Harrison Smith's contract, because I love Harrison Smith, but he took a pay cut, and I believe it was Harrison Smith. Was it Harrison Smith or Adam Thielen? Someone took a pay cut, and now it just does. Okay, I don't think it was Harrison Smith. His contract's perfectly fine. Yeah, his contract is fine. I think it was Adam Thielen. And then everyone's like, oh, Adam Thielen. Wow, he took a pay cut to stay with the team. Wow, we love him for that. And then you look at the fine print, and you just do so much money in the next year. I think it was Adam Thielen. Yes. Okay. So he had 4.2% of the market cap in 2019, 6.4%. Now that's okay. He only had 3.2% in 2021. 3.2% for Adam Thielen. Yeah, he's 100%. That sounds great, right? That sounds amazing, right? That sounds like a perfect decision. Now he's due 8.1%. That is a massive increase. That's almost a 300 times more than he was making last year, where now he's due $17 million. And that's unbelievable. That is unbelievable how much he's getting paid this year. $17 million, and then $18 million the next year, and 18 and a half the year after that. Like, come on, Vikings. Come on. Let's not get distracted on what a pay cut actually is. I'm just going to continue to bash restructuring contracts because it makes sense in some situations. Majority of times, it is absolutely stupid. And Kirk and Adam Thielen taking a pay cut, you think to yourself, well, now it looks great because the Vikings are going to be able to compete in 2021, right? Because the Vikings are going to bring in a lot of defensive players, right? That's what I thought. Gonna be completely honest. I'll admit when I'm wrong. I will. If there's one thing, I might contradict myself a couple times here. And I know a lot of people will mention that I contradict myself because my opinions can change. But if there's one thing, I'll admit when I'm wrong. And I was wrong about this Vikings this last year. I was wrong about the Vikings this last year. I seriously thought we were going to be a great defense. I thought we were going to be a great defense with Mike Zimmer and Andre Patterson leading our defense that was full of veteran talent, full of players who are no longer considered rookies, players who are no longer considered players who are considered veterans is what I'm trying to say here. And I thought we were going to have a great season defensively and on the offensive side of the ball. Wow, was I wrong? I was completely wrong. I seriously predicted the Vikings to be a Super Bowl contender. Now, I had an episode on my YouTube channel where I was talking about the Vikings being winning the Super Bowl this last year. And while that episode was more of a joke, the episode wasn't me being completely serious. I did think the Vikings would win their division and compete in the NFC. Wow, was I wrong? Because our coaching staff is terrible, or was terrible this last season. And now you look at the contracts, and we are screwing ourselves over, Vikings fans. We are absolutely screwing ourselves over with the continuing restructuring contracts, the continue of pay cuts. Now, I'm going to quote this because pay cut is the most ludicrous, the stupidest little line people continue to use because it's almost never a pay cut. It's kicking the can down a couple of years and screwing yourselves over is what a pay cut is. LGKDOC says restructures work when a team is 1-2 pieces away, not when they're missing an entire secondary. Thank you guys for not being brainwashed football fans who understand what a restructuring contract is and what pay cuts are, because it does work sometimes. It does work. But has it ever worked with the Vikings? Ever in history? We are an entire secondary away from competing. Listen, we might be able to get a good corner in the first round. Rarely do you see cornerbacks drafted in the first round or drafted at all and make a splash in the rookie season. This almost never happens because it's so much of a difference to be able to go from a lockdown corner in college to being a lockdown corner in football. Now, yes, it can happen. And but it very rarely happens where corners immediately understand how an offensive scheme works and be able to understand how a defense is run in the NFL compared to college. And it happens where corners do turn to lockdown corners very fast. A perfect example is AJ Tyrell. Now, AJ Tyrell with the Falcons right now, I'm going to say this right now. AJ Tyrell might be the most underrated player in football. He's the cornerback for the Falcons, and he is an absolute lockdown monster of a corner. That man, I might have my stats wrong, but I believe AJ Tyrell allowed less than 10 receiving yards per game. Yeah, well, he wasn't able to do it his first rookie season. It took him a year to actually start hitting stride, but typically it takes 2 to 3 years for corners to actually work in the NFL. We can't just take a rookie corner, throw him in as a cornerback one and say, oh, we're in a division. Well, maybe Devontae Adams and Allen Robinson is gone, but we're in a division where we might have to go against Devontae Adams. Oh, yeah, let's just throw him as a cornerback one. Oh, you can handle Devontae Adams. Why not? Like, come on, guys. Let's get realistic here. I mean, drafting a corner in the first round, I love the idea. I'm all in for it. I want the Vikings to take a corner in the first round. But it might take 2 to 3 years for Ahmad Gardner or Derek Stingley to actually start working. Very rarely do you see rookie corners work. Unlike linebackers. Now, if we take a linebacker in the first round, yeah, they can make a huge impact the rookie season. Like Micah Parsons. Holy crap, Micah Parsons is a monster. It's so weird how different positions work. Like quarterback, it takes them a couple of years to actually understand the playbook, which is why Joe Burrow making a Super Bowl is crazy. That Zach Taylor's a mastermind. I mean, it takes quarterbacks a couple of years, it takes corners a couple of years. Like these are the positions that you need to rebuild your team with. Because you take a corner this year, yeah, he might not look great his rookie season, and I'm fine with that. But he can look amazing the 2 years after that once he finally is able to understand how an offensive scheme in the NFL does work. But yes, it does work when teams are one or two pieces away from competing. I completely agree. And it does work. I can understand restructures. I'm not a complete hater of it. I'm just a hater of the Vikings doing it right now. When a pay cut is not a pay cut. Let's stop calling it a pay cut. Because 1 year ago today, I even mentioned, I said Adam Thielen might have taken a pay cut, and it might help our 2021 season, but it's not going to help us in the future. And now that contract is hitting because Adam Thielen's pay cut. Yeah, I did understand it last year. I did because last year I predicted that the Vikings would be a Super Bowl contender because last year I predicted the Vikings could just use that money elsewhere and somehow be able to compete in 2021. Yeah, well, we had Mike Zimmer as our head coach. Okay, that's not very possible. That is not possible at all as long as he's a head coach in football. But yeah, just a terrible season for the Vikings. And now please, Kwesi, you understand money. Kevin O'Connell, I'm assuming you understand how many pieces you need for an offense to actually work, how much you need an offensive line to be doing their job for Kirk Cousins to work. I just need these people to understand and see the mistakes the Vikings have made and learn from their mistakes. Because if there's one thing about this Vikings organization, we make the same mistakes over and over and over, and they're obvious. They're blatantly there that restructures are hurting our team, that they're killing our cap space, that they're brutally murdering our future is what they're doing. And it's so painful to see this over and over and over. And we seriously, guys, we just have to look. We have to look to the future for this team. We have to. Now, I've talked a little bit on a lot of Vikings fans also say that Andre Patterson should stay with the organization. And I love Andre Patterson. I've talked about it a little already. Now, if we pull up this poll, we got some votes. I was asking who you guys think is going to win the Super Bowl this weekend. It looks like 56% is going with the Rams. So I agree. I completely agree. And I've talked about it a little already. There's the saying, and this will likely prove the saying right. The saying is that offense wins games, defense wins championships. That's what people typically say. And I believe this is going to prove that saying actually correct, because these are two high-powered offenses. These are two amazing offenses going head-to-head on Sunday. But at the end of the day, who has the better roster? Who gets the edge in this game? I'm going Rams. And that's why, if you guys were tuning in earlier, my prediction was that the Rams win 27-22. Little odd score right there. 27 isn't, but 22 is a little odd score. Maybe we get a 2-point conversion in there. I'm all in on the Bengals. I will cheer for the Bengals. Do I think they're going to win? Absolutely not. I'll say it again. The factors of winning a game. Who has the better coaching staff? Oh, it's Sean McVay by 100 miles. Sean McVay's coaching staff is unstoppable and maybe the best in the NFL. Not only is Sean McVay just an absolute mastermind of a head coach, and I've said this many times, but Raheem Morris, great defensive coordinator. How about the fact that Kevin O'Connell is a great offensive mind as well, and he's going to be our head coach next year. So excited for that. And there's multiple other names on that roster as well. So Sean, I don't think there's any question. Like, Zach Taylor might be a great head coach, but I don't think there's any question about the fact that Sean McVay is a better coaching tree there. Oh, who is the better quarterback? See, this is questionable. I mean, at this point, I'm going all in on Joe Burrow. I love Joe Burrow. That's my guy. I'm going Joe Burrow when you look at quarterbacks. Look at playmakers. I mean, Bengals probably. I mean, but is it really going to matter that since the Bengals have such a bad offensive line, is it really going to matter that their playmakers might have Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon in the mix? But at the end of the day, Joe Mixon is going to have less than 4 yards per carry. I can almost confidently say that, because when you're going up against Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, Von Miller, do I need to keep going? When you're going up against these players, do you really think Joe Mixon is somehow going to come up with over 4 yards per carry? Now, he might make some receiving yards from the backfield, as we do see Mixon typically do. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're going up against the Rams defense. And then who has the better defense? Oh, the Rams by 100 miles. I mean, it's just, the Rams have such an advantage in this game. And a 4.5 point spread is actually bigger than I thought in the Rams' favor. But at the end of the day, I got to go Rams. Any given Sunday, anything can happen. I'll cheer for the Bengals. I know they can win. Any given Sunday, anything can happen. AJ Green, I love your playoff count in the background. Thank you. Tracking years. I mean, I'm going to run out of room. 15 years, I'm going to no longer have more room to track the Lions. Imagine if there's another 15 years where the Lions don't win a playoff game. Wow. Like, they're in such a good position to rebuild right now. They have a great head coach. They could get a good quarterback. Now, you don't want to draft a quarterback second overall in this year's draft. They can bring in a great player. Maybe Aiden comes in, Hutchinson, or maybe they go with the. Would they go offensive tackle second overall? I don't think so. They'd probably go with one of the edge rushers, or Kayvon Thibodeau. There's a couple names the Lions could go there and could definitely load up on defense, because if there's one thing the Lions are very underrated at, is their defense. Because although their secondary has been god awful and the Price dude has just been terrible for them, and then obviously Okuda's been awful with the Lions as well. Like, their secondary is god awful, which is why the Vikings interviewing their defensive back coach, like, what are you doing, Vikings? Stop interviewing the Lions defensive back coach. I mean, I don't even know who Aubrey Pleasant is, but the fact that he's the Lions defensive backs coach is enough of a red flag for me to look on to the next candidate and not even request to interview him. That is stupid. But you know what? At the end of the day, Kwesi probably knows more than me, so I don't know who Aubrey Pleasant is. He might be a mastermind, but if there's one thing, Lions defensive backs, like, they did not look good this last year. They're solid at rushing the passer, though. I want to give them credit where credit is due. Charles Harris has actually reviving his career with Detroit. Who's another name? They have another defensive end who's been excellent for them as well. So Lions, I'll admit, their pass rush is very underrated. They are a great pass rushing team, and maybe in the top half of pass rushing teams in the NFL, which is why I'll give a little bit of credit to the Lions. I'll give it a little bit of credit. Also, I'm surprised that wide receiver careers are actually working with them right now. I mean, Quentin Cephas, if Quentin Cephas was with the Lions 4 years ago, even with Matthew Stafford as their quarterback, probably wouldn't even had a great year. I mean, Marvin Jones, I guess wide receivers typically look good with the Lions, now that I think about it, because they're like the only player in their offense. They don't have anybody. TJ Hawkinson's an underrated tight end. I mean, DeAndre Swift is solid from the backfield, but you look at their wide receivers, it doesn't look very good. It does not look very good for them. Quintez Cephas somehow had a great year. I mean, they had the Amon-Ra St. Brown, who destroyed us, absolutely killed us, as every wide receiver did against us this last season. We made every wideout look like a superstar. We made every opposing wideout Jerry Rice when they were playing our defense this last year. God, it was terrible. And that's why I'm saying I'm fine with the Vikings moving on from Andre Patterson. As much as I respect him and I love the guy, I will forever hold a place in my heart for Andre Patterson. Yeah, but it's time. It's time to move on. We've seen it where teams go for a full-on clean house, look to everybody new, and I'm fine with the Vikings doing that. I'd hate to see Andre Patterson go, but I am fine with it happening. All right, we've been live for an hour now, so finished up with the hour. We're gonna wrap up the show starting 3, 2, 1. Thank you all for tuning in to episode 157 of Morning Kickoff. I hope you all did enjoy tuning into the show. If you did, be sure to rate and subscribe to the podcast for more Minnesota Vikings football related content. I hope you all have an amazing weekend. We have such a great weekend of football coming up, where we have, not only do we have the Super Bowl, but we got NFL honors. I'm a huge fan of NFL honors. I know it doesn't get enough appreciation. We might have Jared Allen actually enter the Hall of Fame. Okay, I didn't even mention that. Jared Allen might be entering the Hall of Fame. He's a second ballot Hall of Famer, or would be a second ballot Hall of Famer. I don't think it's going to happen, but it should happen. It should happen if it does. But you take a look at the Minnesota Vikings, going to look great. Hopefully, this offseason is going to be such a great offseason, and they make the right decisions. I just want it to happen. But whatever happens, we will cover it on the show. We will give our thoughts and opinions and cover all news football. Thank you all for tuning into this episode of Morning Kickoff. Have a great day.